You may be asking why I've decided to re-upload these two. Well, I wasn't happy with the originals. For one, I forgot to change the settings for SA1's project to make it export at 60 FPS. The major reason, though, for this re-upload was the audio. Throughout both videos, there were random moments where the audio would pop, and I was never sure as to why it was happening. My guess it was the PC I was editing on before the lightning strike occurred to be the culprit. Ever since then on my new rig, I haven't encountered that issue since, and now the audio for both SA1 and 2 are fixed. The videos themselves remain mostly the same. I did edit a couple moments in SA2 for better background footage, and to fix a couple audio mistakes, but for the most part, they're about one-to-one the same. With that, let's get on to the Sonic Adventure Duology. Sonic Adventure is an important game. It marked the series' major jump to 3D, and was one of the first Sonic games I ever played. I remember faintly sitting in my old family's PC setup, playing the original PC release of the game. That I remember I was like 5 or 6, and I could never get past Chaos Zero, or at least don't remember getting past him. It wouldn't be till well after the likes of playing Heroes is where I find the disc lying around the house again. And from that moment on, SA1 will become one of my most played Sonic games. Sorry for the nostalgia jumping, but I want you to understand why SA1 is special to me. And to state now, after playing the game after so many years, SA1 has aged terribly. But I still love it. Well, most of it anyways. SA1 wasn't originally going to be the first mainline 3D Sonic game, as Sonic Extreme was going to be the Blue Blur's 3D debut for the Sega Saturn by the Sega Technical Institute, or STI, the same studio that created Sonic 2, 3 Knuckles, and Spinball. Still, of course, Sonic Extreme would be cancelled for various reasons, from poor communication between the American and Japanese staff, workplace politics, Yuji Naka not letting STI use the game engine for Knights for Extreme, as he felt only Sonic Team should be the one to use it, because Naka's a prick, and most notably was the horrid development cycle STI faced with heavy crunch, and some devs becoming incredibly sick to the point where even the designer, Chris Sheen, gotten so sick that he was given 6 months to live. Thankfully he survived, but yeah, no dev team should have experienced that kind of thing. And as such, STI would go defunct in 1996, and the Sega Saturn would become a commercial failure. Soon after, Sonic Team's Tadashi Asuka, after completing development on Nights into Dreams, would propose what he called a role-playing style Sonic game with a greater emphasis on story, which would be called Sonic Adventure. Iizuka would serve as the game's director, and Yuji Naka being the game's producer. It originally started its development on the Saturn, but again, the Saturn bombed, so it moved over to the Dreamcast. Uji Uokawa, who I mentioned in my Billy Hatcher video, would be in charge of the character design and art, with Jun Sonoi being the sound director and composing the soundtrack alongside other composers. Sonic Adventure was released in 1998 as a launch title for Sega's last console, the Dreamcast, in Japan, and in 1999 for the West, releasing on September 9th, 1999. It wouldn't stay on the Dreamcast forever, as it would be released on the GameCube and PC in 2003 and 2004 respectively as Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut. The version I'm playing is the HD release on the Xbox 360 and PS3, later Steam, though for the console releases it was only the base SA1, as you have to buy a DX upgrade as DLC. I don't know why, but that generation was filled with weird DLC practices, so I guess it was the norm back then. I'm also playing the SA1 HD release off my Series X, since it was made backwards compatible alongside other Sonic games. There's nothing different between playing on a 360 and a Series X, but hey, it's nice to at least have these games available on modern systems. Strangely enough, SA1 received a release on Steam in Japan in 2024, even though the rest of the world had it for over a decade now. Not sure why, but it was a funny little detail to learn while researching. So yeah, let's finally get into it. Let's talk Sonic Adventure. And oh wait. We have 6 characters this time around to choose from. Well, not yet anyways. You have to meet them for the first time, either as Sonic or any other character to unlock them. But let's go one character at a time, starting with...
Let's get him!
One night while on the rooftops of Station Square, Sonic notices a commotion with the police and this mysterious water monster. Sonic jumps in and gives the monster a good bump to the head before it retreats. Sonic wakes up the next day to see his best buddy Tails crash land to Emerald Coast.
Watch out! You're gonna crash! Ah!
Oh right, SA1 was one of the first 3D games to have voice acting. And yeah, it's not great, but it's more of a so bad it's funny kind of way. This VA cast gave us Ryan Drummond, who is one of my favorite Sonic VAs. He nails the cocky, attitude-filled character Sonic is, and this is where we enter the first stage of the game, Emerald Coast. Such a good stage to kick off this adventure, when not getting attacked by orcas anyways. Seriously, what's with this series and orcas? I think this is the best time to bring up the gameplay too. For what was the first attempt, Sonic in SA1 is one of the best he's been in the series, when it comes down to the controls and physics of him. I love how Sonic plays here. His jump is a little floaty, but I think it's perfect for platforming. While I do think Sonic in SA2 has tighter controls and it's great in its own way, minus everything being on one button, SA1's is still pretty damn good. The homing attack makes his return from Sonic 3D Blast. Yes, 3D Blast was technically the debut of the homing attack. It wasn't called the homing attack, but it was there. He's got the spin dash, which you can easily abuse to hell and back. It's pretty darn fun. SA1's controls and gameplay is pretty good when the collision detection doesn't screw you over. Yeah, I think it's because of the ports, from what I understand, that the collision detection could be off at points where Sonic and company get stuck on the terrain. I don't think I've died because of that, but I've seen plenty of clips online showing that, yeah, it indeed happens. What helps this stage is the music, and the game in general. I love SA1's soundtrack. It's got a wide variety of themes and style that gives each location its personality, and Emerald Coast is no exception. To get back to the plot, Sonic helps Tails back to the station and he explains to Sonic that he was testing out his plane using the power of a Chaos Emerald he found. The two head to the Mystic Ruins to reach Tails' workshop, but before they could, Eggman decides to show up. I think it's also another time to bring up the voice acting again. Eggman was voiced by the late Dean Bristow, and he's personally one of my favorite voices for Eggman, and you'll see why later on in Tails' story. But in general, he does nail the hammy over-the-top personality Eggman likes to be. This would also mark the first time in the West that Eggman was called Eggman. Yeah, he was always called Eggman in Japan, but whenever the series first appeared in the West, he was called Ivo Robotnik. Why? Good question. I don't know. Robotnik does sound like a cool ass name though. And I think Sonic Team agree as Ivo Robotnik would be his official name, but everyone else would just call him Eggman. Probably to piss off the Doctor. And he just stuck with it to this day. Eggman steals the emerald and reveals that the water monster Sonic fought the other night is Chaos. Eggman plans to use Chaos to destroy Station Square to create his Eggman Land. The two escape, with Sonic and Tails now searching out for the rest of the emeralds before Eggman can, but it doesn't work out well since after finding 2 more emeralds, they just get knocked out by Eggman. Soon the two will encounter Knuckles, who decides to throw it down with Sonic after thinking he has the pieces of the Master Emerald. Oh yeah, Angel Island fell from the sky again, by the way. This is also where we're introduced to character battles and...
Oh no! Oh no! Give it your best shot! Oh no!
Yeah, they're a joke. During the fight, Sonic drops the emerald he and Tails got from Ice Cap, with Eggman taking it for himself. Eggman escapes with Chaos onto his airship, the Egg Carrier. Sonic and Tails try to board the ship using Tails' tornado, and I'm not going to lie, I kind of forget Sky Chase is a thing in this game sometimes. It's not bad, but it's basically Panzer Dragoon, but with a hedgehog and a fox. It can be a fun distraction, but I don't really go back to this, even though you gotta do this like 3 more times afterwards. The two end up getting shot out of the sky, with Sonic landing back in Station Square. Sonic meets Amy, and she asks him to help protect a little bird that's been following her. Amy is captured by one of Eggman's robots and gets sent to the Egg Carrier. Sonic tries to catch up with the carrier through Red Mountain, but Tails appears at the nick of time with an upgraded tornado, and the two board the Egg Carrier.
This must be the way to the sky deck!
After rescuing Amy and finding out one of Eggman's robots dubbed Gamma, Amy stops Sonic from destroying Gamma as he was the one who broke her out of her cell, and Sonic hesitantly agrees. Sonic tells Tails to get Amy out of there before the ship crashes while he deals with the Doctor. Sonic fights off Chaos once again, and Now there's a random purple cat there for whatever reason. Sonic falls off the ship chasing after Eggman, and thankfully he doesn't suffer from fall damage. He notices a red orb heading into the nearby ruins where he finds a mural of Chaos destroying the lands, where Sonic is also shown a vision of the past where Chaos was once first released onto the world. By the way, get used to these flashbacks, you'll be seeing them often. Sonic returns to the present to see Eggman heading towards his base. Sonic fights him off one last time with him coming out victorious. Eggman retreats again, and Tails shows up to greet Sonic as the two stare out into the horizon, ending Sonic's story. This is the longest story in the game, by the way. Going forward, the other plot synopsis won't be as long, but of course, this is just only one part of the story. If it wasn't apparent, SA1's presentation has aged, most of which can be thanks to DX. Sonic Adventure DX not only brought the game to other platforms, but also updated some of the textures and models. And I say update in quotations, as some of the models, while they did get a nice update, are now incredibly shiny for whatever reason, even that night, and even certain models didn't get any upgrades. Even then, some of the textures can still look pretty bad, like look at the A carrier, Jesus Christ man. Despite those blemishes, SA1 has a nice variety of environments, making each stage memorable in its own way, be it the tornado-filled windy valley, or the towering skyscrapers of Speed Highway. To get to these stages, you have to go through the game's hub world. This wasn't the first Sonic game to have a hub world in a way. Sonic Jam on the Sega Saturn had one, but these are easily one of the best hub worlds in a Sonic game. They're just about the right size they really need to. This is also where you can find character upgrades. Each character gets their own set of permanent upgrades that can help them with platforming and exploration. In Sonic's case, he got a few new things, including the debut of the Lightspeed Dash, and it's the worst iteration of it too. Unlike future games where it's just a simple button press to perform, in SA1, you have to hold down the spin dash button for it to charge. There is another upgrade that can reduce the time it takes to charge, but still it's a really big pace breaker. I mean, it can be pretty satisfying performing long chains with it, but in future games they make this ability way better. Well, for the most part anyways. Boss battles are more of a mixed bag though. While there are some good ones like the 8 Fiber, I generally do love this fight, it's probably one of the best in the game. There's Chaos 4, a fight that drags on for way too long. Not only that, but you have to fight for half the characters in the game with little to no changes. Also, the water is weird as hell in this fight for whatever reason. Sonic's story is easily my favorite of the 6, but at least for the next few stories, there is still plenty of good stuff to go around.
Here I come, Sonic!
Tails' story is more or less the same as Sonic's. He tests his plane, it crashes, and everything up until the first Sky Chase act is the same. The only difference is some lines are changed, and by change, I mean characters will say Sonic and Tails now instead of just Sonic. But Dean Bristow's performance as Eggman becomes way more sinister.
If it isn't Sonic!
Well, if it isn't Sonic and Tails.
One last little tidbit about the voice acting, that for SA1, 2, and Heroes, Tails is voiced by a child actor. A different kid for each game too, and they progressively get worse with each game. SA1's is probably the best, and honestly, I don't have too much of an issue with it. Some of the delivery can be strange at points.
That's Eggman! I wonder what happened to Sonic.
But again, it's not all that bad, honestly. After Sky Chase 1 is where Tails' story starts to become its own, where he recounted a memory where he first met Sonic, or at least that's what I presume this is supposed to be. Tails decides to stand up for himself and goes off hunting for the emeralds. He finds one in the Mystic Ruins after a frog swallowed it, and after changing into the sandboarding section, which he's the only character to do so in this frankly random as hell segment. It's also surprising they brought this area back for Team Sonic Racing. Yeah, remember that game? Tails gets jump scared by a giant purple cat, and thanks to the emerald he acquired from the frog, he uses the power of the Tornado 2 to meet up with Sonic at Red Mountain. And it's mostly the same again for this bit, where he helps Sonic rescue Amy, and the two make it back to Station Square. Tails notices that Eggman crash landed into the square, and Eggman basically says, "Fuck it, we're nuking this bitch."
Ah! No, it was a dud!
Now how the fuck was it a dud? You know, for a genius, you can't make missiles worth shit. Tails disarmed the bomb with the two fighting out in front of the casino. And again, Dean's performance.
You fool. Away. before I make mincemeat out of you.
Tails saves Station Square with him meeting up with Sonic, ending Tails' story. Tails' story, or at least towards the second half of it, is about him learning to have courage to stand up against Eggman on his own and fight his own battles. You know, a little bit of character development, for what very little there is in this game. Tails, like Sonic, has about everything he had in the past. He can fly for a short bit before getting tired out and dropping like a rock. Tails does get this ribbon that makes him breakdance, so that's something. All stages are races to the end, and I'm assuming it's a friendly competition with Sonic. It'd make more sense for Eggman to stop him from rearming the Bon. However, you have to intentionally be slow in order to lose these races. Not sure what else I can say without repeating myself, but Tails' story is pretty solid, significantly shorter than Sonic's, but I still think it's a fun time.
Okay, let's go!
Okay, so we technically start at the beginning of the story this time around. One night while Knuckles is guarding the Master Emerald, it shattered, releasing a glowing red orb and chaos. Knuckles attempts to fight off the monster but ends up escaping the shrine anyways, and since the Master Emerald was destroyed, Angel Island starts to fall to the lands below. Side note, the FMVs in the HD release doesn't play the full video for whatever reason, and it's kind of annoying. Knuckles is now hunting for the pieces of the Master Emerald starting in Station Square. After some time finding the pieces and destroying a statue in the casino, yeah, fuck you, Sonic. He's given a vision of the past, and I guess this is also a good time to explain a couple of things. The girl we see in the past is Tikal, who guards the Master and Chaos Emeralds, and the child that lived near it. She tries to convince her father to not take the emerald by force, believing that violence is not the right way to peace, but of course he refuses and we get sent back to the present. Knuckles notices Eggman and follows suit. He confronts the doctor, asking him to hand over the pieces of the Master Emerald, but it just turns out to be a Chaos Emerald. Chaos reappears and now becomes Chaos 2. We've seen Chaos 0, 1, 2, 4, and 6, but never 3 or 5. I wonder what those would look like. Eggman informs Knuckles that Sonic is also searching for the pieces of the Master Emerald, and despite knowing that Eggman lied to him in the past, like in Sonic 3 and K, Knuckles believes him anyways because he's the knucklehead he is. After some more emerald hunting, Knuckles fights Sonic. Eggman turns on him because of course he does. While Sonic and Tails try to catch up with the carrier, Knuckles returns to the shrine to restore it, however there is still a good chunk of it missing. Thanks to the Master Emerald's holographic technology, it reveals that the last pieces of the emerald are on board the egg carrier. And thanks to a random Eggman robot that just dropped out of nowhere, Knuckles follows him to the base where the ship is located. Since we're now on the egg carrier, I want to say that Knuckles' final stage can be a bit awkward. Use this lever in the stage to change the direction of everything, and it causes everything to be really funky. Oh, watch out, Knuckles! Oh, anyway, he's fine. Knuckles finds the last of the pieces, but before he can return to the island, Chaos reappears again, and Knuckles swiftly takes him down, seemingly for good this time. Hopefully. Maybe. Knuckles finally returns to the Master Emerald, still contemplating to himself that he'll be alone, guarding the Master Emerald forever, except no, he doesn't. Ending Knuckles' story. Knuckles stages play out like treasure hunts. You have a radar that's on the bottom of the screen that'll clue you in if you're getting closer to the pieces. You'll be able to detect the pieces in any order you feel, and Tikal will be floating around if say you're having trouble finding them. They can be pretty fun since most of the stages are small enough to where it doesn't feel like you're going in circles trying to find these little green Jolly Ranchers, though at the cost of them being pretty short. Out of all his upgrades, there's only one I consider really useful. The others kind of feel pointless, like these yellow gloves, which I forget the name of them, so let's just call them the piss yellow gloves. Oh, except for the Chaos 6 fight. Yeah, eat shit. Pretty good stuff still. But this is where the quality really starts to drop, starting with the next story.
It's my turn now!
Amy is seen walking along in Station Square when all of a sudden the egg carrier decides to show up. Something falls out of the sky hitting Amy, and it turns out to be a random blue bird. Before she can process what the blue bird wants, a random robot decides to show up and try to capture her and the bird. Amy escapes the bot with her soon finding Sonic. The two decide to go on a date to Twinkle Park. By the way, the monitor she's looking at isn't in Sonic's story. Oh, the robot's named Syrup, by the way. Okay, so Amy's first stage is Twinkle Park, and I want to bring up this random as hell segment in her first stage. It's this hall of mirrors that only appears one time for Amy's story and no one else's. It's a generally pretty eerie area of the game, and what doesn't help is the music that plays here. Why is there a baby Google in the middle of the fucking song? So Amy gets caught by Zero and now is imprisoned on the egg carrier. Gamma releases her from her cell, and before she can find a way off the carrier, Eggman shows up to steal a Chaos Emerald that was in the bird's locket. Amy escapes thanks to Tails, and now we're back in Station Square again. Though strangely enough, the events of Tails' story doesn't seem to be happening again, since, Eggman was trying to bomb the city. Amy promises to find the bird's family after seeing a photo of it in its locket. Amy does find them, however, on the downed egg carrier now. But before the birds can fly away, Zero appears out of nowhere to snipe the blue bird. Guess Eggman forgot about him. Amy defeats Zero once and for all, and the birds fly off together, ending Amy's story. This goes for the next two stories as well, but Amy's story doesn't have much significance towards the overall plot besides the Chaos Emerald and the bird's locket. I don't really have a mind when it's like its own separate plot from the main plot, but I don't know, it's not that interesting enough. Hope you like being chased because that's all of Amy's stages. Even though Zero is a complete joke, there are also barrels and whatnot you can hide in, but why would you do that? Zero can easily be swatted away with Amy's Pico Pico hammer, in which I'll give her gameplay some credit. It can be pretty fun in launching Amy into the air. It feels nice to do it because besides doing that, Amy is naturally slow, unless you're running upstairs. You end the stage by grabbing onto the balloon at the end, and thank God Eggman did not equip Zero with a gun, otherwise we'd be fucked. Amy's journal portion is whatever. I don't hate it, but I have no interest in playing your stages. Well, at least smacking Zero at the end is pretty satisfying. One last thing, what's up with the lyrics in her theme?
Feelings about
This thing looks so cute. I had to shave it.
Hold on, Froggy. I'm coming.
Big is seen sleeping at his house, meanwhile his pet frog, Froggy, spots something moving around. It attacks Froggy and now gives him a tail. Big wakes up to notice Froggy looking a bit different. The frog decides to swallow the Chaos Emerald that's next to him. I know this is common knowledge now, but Big the Cat in this game was voiced by John St. John, who is best known for the legend himself, the menu guy from Sonic Advance 3.
Sonic Advance 3!
Big's story becomes him chasing Froggy around, catching him, the frog escaping his grip again and again. Big somehow ends up on the egg carrier where he fights Chaos, and by fight I mean he fishes out Froggy. Also, the tail that Froggy had was Chaos's tail, and that's really the only significance Big's story has. Big manages to escape the crashing carrier by using the tornado. Yes, that means Big has a pilot's license, even though he somehow managed to barely fit in the damn thing. They make it back home, and that ends Big's story. Remember I said you better like being chased? Well, you better also like fishing too, because that's quite literally what you do in Big's story. Just fish. Nothing more, nothing less. All you need to do in big stages is just find Froggy and capture him. Making the stages is quite short if you know what you're doing. There are other fish you can catch, but that's only for the other mission rings, or if you're just bored, I guess. Personally, never really bother with this. All of his upgrades besides the life belt practically are only there to help catch bigger fish, which again, I don't really care. I would joke about how you can use the Sega bass fishing peripheral for these stages, but it turns out that was a lie. Whatever, let's just move on to the last story.
Preparation complete.
Gamma tests out one of his new E-Series robots, dubbed E102 Gamma. Gamma is put up against his older brother, E101 Beta, to see who will serve Eggman on board the egg carrier. Gamma is the winner, but Beta still gets brought on board for what the doctor calls spare parts. Gamma, along with 3 other E-Series robots, are given the task to find the tail frog. Gamma finds the frog before the others can, and because of that, the other robots are taken to God knows where. Eggman orders Gamma to head to the cells to get the blue bird for Amy. Gamma, however, accidentally runs into the wrong room where Beta is seemingly being experimented on. Gamma frees Amy, he fights Sonic, and Amy convinces Gamma to stop listening to the doctor. Gamma escapes the ship, now on a journey to free his other brothers from Eggman's controls, by shooting the ever-living shit out of them. Thank God none of the birds and the bots don't get burned to a crisp. Gamma successfully rescues 3 of his brothers, but before he can decide to destroy himself, Beta is seen flying towards the center of the downed egg carrier. Gamma and Beta face off one last time, but the two end up destroying each other in the end. The animals are now free, ending Gamma's story. Gamma's stage is about him just blasting everything to hell and back. You have to do this as Gamma has a timer. Blasting stuff will fill up the timer gradually. Not sure why he has one to begin with. I guess he has a self-destruction switch that goes off if it hits 0. It can be fun blasting through the stages, destroying stuff, but these stages can be very brief, and they're not that many to begin with either. You do get a hover later on, in which that can be pretty fun. The battles between the E-Series robots are also very piss easy. You don't really have to move, you can just stand there and shoot and you win. The fight with Beta at the end is easily the best fight Gamma has, and probably one of the best fights in the game in general. Also, the track that plays here is an absolute banger. Well, no, that's all 6 stories. But we're not done yet, as after finishing all 6 stories, there's one last story that gets unlocked. So let's finish this off with... oh yeah, the Chow card. This is an entirely optional part of the game that lets you take care of these tiny little creatures called Chow. It's a massive time sink to raise and train these little guys. I didn't spend much time here, but yeah, back in the past, I certainly spent a hell of a lot of time in these areas. I didn't know where else to put this little segment, but let's get back to the main game now. It's time for Floating Yellow Question Mark. Eggman is seen wandering through Mystic Ruins saying how much he hates Sonic, of course. Eggman is suddenly attacked by chaos out of nowhere. Meanwhile, Angel Island starts to fall from the sky again. Even though the Master Emerald was restored, something is wrong with the shrine. Knuckles presumes that the Chaos Emeralds are likely the reason for it. He soon notices Eggman lying on the ground nearby, and before he can process anything, Chaos sneaks up on him. Elsewhere, Sonic is seen resting under the tree. That's when Tails decides to run up, or I guess slide in this case, telling him that the island fell again. He thought the waves and rumbling from it would be enough. I guess Sonic's a very heavy sleeper. The two make it to the shrine to find both Eggman and Knuckles injured. Knuckles tells Sonic that Chaos took the 6 emeralds he had. That's when Tikal decides to show up, thinking it's the best time to reveal to Sonic how Chaos was once freed onto the world, unleashing his power after her father decides to try to take the shrine by force. She ends up sealing herself and Chaos within the Master Emerald to ensure that the world cannot be destroyed. And since, again, back at the beginning of the story, when the Master Emerald was shattered, Chaos in her was released. Sonic snaps back to reality, and soon him and Tails find the last Chaos Emerald that's in Tails' tornado too, but Chaos beats them to it. We cut back to Station Square, seeing Chaos is wreaking havoc onto the city, flooding everything in its wake. With little to no casualties. Seriously, the streets are completely empty by the time the flooding starts. Also, here's Chaos in the FMV. Pretty cool, right? Damn, he's just a wet noodle now. Chaos uses up the energy of the Chaos Emerald, and Eggman attempts to take down Chaos with a second egg carrier that he casually has lying around. Gotta always have that second chip just in case, I guess. But it doesn't work as it gets blown out of the sky. Everything seems hopeless until Tikal decides to show up to inform that Chaos only absorbed the negative energy of the emeralds. Sonic uses the positive energy to become Supersonic. Okay, so SA1 introduced a lot of things, but this is also where Crush 40 made their debut to the series. And man, talk about an amazing first impression. Oh, damn music transition. After many more bonks to the head, Chaos is neutralized. Now Tikal and it can return to once they were peacefully.
All's well that ends well, right?
Station Square is still in ruins, so I guess Eggman can build Eggman Land. But Sonic runs off into the sunset, ending Sonic Adventure's story. Despite the many stories, it's still a rather basic plot. The issues I have with it more stem from how the later half feels like fluff. Like, why do some of these characters get flashbacks? They have no reason to know any of these segments. Like, what is Big gonna do with this? If you didn't get enough out of the main story, there is mission mode that DX brought in. There are 60 of these missions that are scattered across the hub worlds. I didn't spend much time on this either since I felt the main game was enough for me, but it's a nice bonus anyways. a lot of which revolve around the burger shop guy, which is, wait, Sonic X, Sonic 06, Sonic 4 Episode 1, oh god, it's getting worse, oh god, oh god, oh wait, never mind, Sonic Unleashed is there. I'm not sure if I can recommend SA1 as someone's entry point to the series. It's dated terribly in many areas, half the roster is whatever, however, I think it has some merit playing it, or at least appreciating what there is and what they tried to attempt, even if it all wasn't that great. I know I'll sound like a broken record repeating what everybody else wants, but I wouldn't mind a remake of this game. I think it's just because of how fondly remembered this and SA2 were, is why Sega is hesitant to do one. As of now, it's not happening, but if it were to happen, I wouldn't mind it. Despite what I said, I think you should play Sonic Adventure. Just be mindful that it may be a bumpy experience. Well, I've been Sonic Man, and I thank you for watching. Have a good day, or night, or whatever, and take care. As for next time, well, I think it seems fitting that we go on to its sequel. So, Sonic Adventure was a success for Sega and Sonic Team. It made sense that they would follow up Adventure with a sequel, but there's always a catch to this. And for SA2, it was made with a much smaller team. For comparison's sake, SA1 had 120 devs during its development. Pretty big, yeah? Oh dear. Yeah, SA2 was created by a team of 12 devs, including Tadashi Iizuka returning as the director. Not only that, but they are also to be relocated to San Francisco, California to form the now defunct Sonic Team USA, and to make a game with the same scope as SA1 again. I'm not sure why Sega would do this, and to quote Tadashi Iizuka, is like trying to make the impossible possible. However, despite all that, and a year and a half of development, Sonic Adventure 2 will be released on June 19th of 2001 for the Dreamcast, and would go on to be considered one of the best 3D Sonic games of all time. That's all great and all, but there's one problem. By the time SA2 would hit store shelves, the Dreamcast was discontinued, and Sega would pull out of the console industry altogether to become a third-party company. Like its predecessor, the Sega Saturn, it was a commercial failure. SA2 would simultaneously be the last Sonic game for a Sega console, and the first for a Nintendo console. Yeah, SA2 would be re-released on the GameCube the same year as Sonic Adventure 2 Paddle in Japan, with the rest of the world not getting it until the next year, where it ended up being one of the best-selling games on the lunchbox. This was how I, and many others, played SA2 for the first time. This would be the only way to play Battle for the longest time too, up until the HD release on the Xbox 360, PS3, and Steam in 2012. This is also the version I'm looking at today on my Series X, which again, no real difference between the systems, but it's always nice to have these on modern systems regardless. But, whatever, let's talk Sonic Adventure 2. Instead of 6 individual stories, we now have 2 different sides, the hero side and the dark side. Let's just combine the stories to make it easier. Eggman is seen raiding one of Gun's bases. Gun, or Guardian Units of Nations, basically the Sonic Universe's equivalent of the US military. I wonder where they were for SA1, because sure as hell weren't helping with Perfect Chaos. Eggman proceeds deeper into the base to find the secret project that his grandfather, Gerald Robotnik, had created over 50 years ago. He opens the capsule, and that's where we're introduced to one of the most popular characters in the whole franchise. SA2 would mark the debut of Shadow the Hedgehog. Fitting time as well, given that Sega declared this year as the year of Shadow, with him getting his own scenario in Sonic Cross Shadow Generations, Sonic X Shadow Generations, wish they had a better name for this, and being a key character in the upcoming third live-action movie, being voiced by Keanu Reeves of all people. What a time to be a Sonic fan, I tell you. After releasing him, Shadow offers to help Eggman, but he first must find his way to the space colony called Ark. Elsewhere, Knuckles is fending off some Batgirl from the Master Emerald. This is Rouge the Bat. This also marked her debut as well. While the two argue, Eggman emerges out of nowhere to steal the emerald from under them. Knuckles jumps in and destroys the emeralds, with both of them now searching out for the pieces. Way to go there, Knuckles. Also, why the hell are you all the way from Angel Island? Like, where are you? Meanwhile, going to arrest Sonic, but he manages to, quote, take out everyone on board the helicopter. Now, I imagine most people play the hero side first, but this is an intro. This also leads to the first stage of the hero side, and you know you are in for a good time when the music kicks in.
Attention all units. Suspect seen heading south. Block all major roads and capture the suspect.
Yeah, this is awesome. Minus the gun trick at the end. To focus on the music a bit, SA2's soundtrack is nothing but fantastic. Most of the composers returned from SA1, including Jun Sonoy. But this is also where Tomono Otani made his musical debut to the series, and would later go on to be the lead composer for many games. It's way more aggressive and louder, with faster beats to accompany the faster pace of stages. This does come at a cost, however, but more on that in a minute. Eggman returns to his base in the desert when he turns on the news to see a report about Shadow stealing a Chaos Emerald from a local bank. The reporter believes that Sonic was the one who committed the crime, despite there being a clear shot of Shadow, and he certainly does not look like Sonic. Did they forget Sonic is blue and not black and red? It makes more sense if it was just a silhouette of him to go off of. But no, he's clear as day. That's clearly not Sonic. I swear these news reporters are either blind or they are just that ignorant. Shadow gets a flashback to the moment where his close friend, and the granddaughter of Gerald, Maria, is shot by gun soldiers, before getting launched out into space. Shadow wants to fulfill Maria's promise to the world, which he interprets as seeking revenge against those who killed her. Remember this for later, by the way, because it's going to be real important. Soon the two hedgehogs would encounter each other. Sonic tries to take on Shadow head on, but before he can, Shadow uses Chaos Control and flees from the scene right before Sonic is caught and arrested again. This is a prime time to mention the game's sound mixing, as it's pretty bad. It becomes impossible to hear some of these characters with how loud the music is. That was the cost I was talking about earlier, and like, can't even hear what they're saying right now.
Now I know what's going on. The military has mistaken me for the likes of you. So, where do you think you're going with that emerald? Say something, you fake hedgehog!
From what I understand, the mixing only got worse when the game was ported to HD, and that's a shame too, as the voice acting has gotten better. Still not amazing, but it's still a step up from the last game. It's also where David Humphrey provides the voice for Shadow, and he's honestly one of my favorites. And honestly underrated because he's not in very much games afterwards. Literally like this game and the next game after this.
My name is Shadow. Since you were so kind to release me, my master, I will grant you one wish. Bring more Chaos Emeralds. I'll be waiting for you in the central control room on the Space Colony Ark. Maria, I still remember what I promised you. For the people of this planet, I promise you revenge!
Eggman is now aboard the Ark, where Shadow explains to that the Eclipse Cannon is key to their plan. With the power of the Chaos Emeralds, they can use the cannon to dominate the world, but they need all 7 of them. Rouge sneaks aboard as well, offering to help locate the emeralds in exchange for Eggman to help her locate the pieces of the Master Emerald. And the 3 now infiltrate Prison Island. Eggman plans to distract the guards on base, while Shadow plants the bomb to destroy the island, and Rouge steals the emeralds from Gun's cargo area. Then all of a sudden Amy shows up out of nowhere, thinking Shadow is Sonic. Did she not look before grabbing? Whatever. Now, how did Amy get here anyways? Like, seriously, she didn't sneak in with Tails as he was already flying towards the island the moment this was happening. So I'm guessing she could just snuck on board via cargo? Tails arrives in the nick of time to save Amy from Eggman. Tails goes ahead and tries to find Sonic in the base, but Amy beats him to it. After running to the base, Sonic would meet Shadow on his way to save Rouge, who had gotten herself locked in the Emerald safe. This is also a good time to mention another issue with this game's audio, is that characters tend to cut each other off mid-sentence.
I think you're the fake hedgehog around here. You're comparing yourself to me? Huh, you're not even good enough to be I'll make you eat those words!
Their encounter is cut short when Eggman reminds Shadow of the bomb. Shadow rescues Rouge and the island blows up. Now with the 6 Chaos Emeralds, Eggman demonstrates the power of the Eclipse Cannon by destroying a good chunk of the moon, I'm assuming the moon in this universe can heal itself because it's fine in future games. It was explained by Izuka years later that we only see the part of the moon that wasn't destroyed. But that doesn't make sense, because we can see clear as day here, and the moon really wouldn't rotate like that in reality. I know it's fiction, but it just makes no sense that it's just fine in the future games. Hell, even Sonic X followed on it.
How did you pass security?
I pretended I was a bar of soap and gave them all the slip.
Anyways, Eggman gives the people of Earth 24 hours to submit to his demands, or use the cannon again.
Our threats fell on deaf ears.
What? Rouge reveals that the last emerald they need is in the possession of Tails. It is also revealed that Rouge is a government agent spying on Shadow to confirm for employers if he truly is the ultimate life form Gerald created. But more on that later. Back on Earth, Tails explains to the others that he can use the Chaos Emerald to locate the signals of the other emeralds. However, they haven't had any luck finding them. Alright, Knuckles. He really was doing his own thing for a while, wasn't he? Tails learns that Eggman and the President are holding a meeting within the President's limo and gives chase. Alright, the driving stages, kinda forgot about these too. Well, not to say they're bad, no. I actually like these stages. They don't give Mario Kart a run for their money, but it can be fun. Also, what are these highways? These have to be some of the most dangerous highways I've ever seen. There are little cliffs and there are tight turns everywhere. There are even cars here minding their own business which you can easily smack out of existence. These roads don't fuck around, man. Sonic and Tails interrupt the meeting to learn that Eggman is transmitting from the Ark. The group find Eggman's base in the desert, and after traveling further into it, Eggman sends out his golem to stop the heroes, but Sonic manages to give him a good old... The heroes use a conveniently placed shuttle that's stationed there, which I have to ask, why does Eggman have this? We know that he has a teleporter that takes him between the base and the Ark, so I'm guessing this is either a backup plan just in case the teleporter stops working, or it was already there when he made the base. Like, why is it here? It makes no sense. They make it on board the Ark, and Tails explains his plan to use a fake emerald that he created to destroy the cannon from the inside by reversing the energy stored within it. Tails goes up to destroy the power supply, meanwhile Sonic heads for the cannon to insert the emerald, and Amy, just does nothing. Eggman, however, was already spying on the group and learns of the fake emerald. As for Rouge and Knuckles, they have a scuffle, with Rouge nearly falling to her death before Knuckles grabs her at the last second. Rouge hesitantly gives up pieces she has, and the emerald's now restored. Thank God none of the pieces fell into the pit below. Sonic is about ready to put the emerald into the cannon, but he is stopped by Eggman, who now has Amy hostage. Also, I think this is one of the only times in the games where Eggman is about to pop someone's head off with a straight up gun. Sonic tries to trick him with the fake emerald, but again he's already aware of the plan and traps Sonic in a pod.
You thought you could trick me with that fake emerald, didn't you?
So, how did you know it wasn't the real one?
Because you just told me, Fox boy.
Damn it, Tails. Sonic is launched into space and presumably dies. Shadow confronts Rouge in the cannon, knowing full well that she's a secret agent. Rouge also calls him out on the claim of being the ultimate life form, but Eggman interrupts them, informing Shadow that someone is trying to reach the cannon's exterior. If you're guessing that person is Sonic, then you are correct, as he managed to survive the explosion by using Chaos Control. I kinda get him using the fake emerald to perform it, but how did he learn it? He only seen Shadow use it once, way back in the beginning of the story, so I'm guessing he must have learned it by just watching Shadow. This is also where I'm not sure which ending is meant to be the true ending between the two. The hero's side ends with Sonic destroying the cannon and stopping the Doctor's plans. On the other hand, Eggman is seen putting the last emerald into it. I'm a little confused at this point, but this is where both stories end, which leads into the final story of the game. Just like SA1, to unlock the final story, you need to complete both sides. However, let's leave that for the end. SA2's presentation compared to SA1 had a significant boost. It still shows its age at points with the blocky character models, and it still got its fair share of quirks though, like the mocap. It can look a bit strange at points given the characters that it's attached to. I much prefer it over the stiff repetitive animations that were in the first game, plus this ain't the worst usage of motion capture in the series. The HD release does give the game widescreen support, which also showcased some things that were meant to be hit by the 4:3 ratio of the original, which I really don't blame the game in this case since it wasn't designed with that to begin with. Some of the cutscenes however retain their original aspect ratio. Generally it's the ones that have pre-rendered elements within them, or just the straight up CGI cutscenes. Instead of 6 different gameplay styles, there are now only 3. High-speed platforming with Sonic and Shadow, shoot 'em up stages with Tails and Eggman, and treasure hunting exploration with Knuckles and Rouge. Let's start with Sonic and Shadow, as they're easily the best part of the game. I love how they control. It's way more tighter than SA1's, as the speed for each feels much faster too, and also thanks to some of the new moves you got in this game. For one, this was the first game to incorporate rail grinding into the series, thanks to Sonic's brand new soap shoes. Yeah, Sega got a promotion with the real life shoe brand for this game, and Sonic's really rocking them in this game, not gonna lie. I do like the design of them. Grinding in later games will become more automated, but for SA2, you have to maintain your balance on the rails to keep your speed going, which I don't find really much of a hassle. It's pretty easy to keep your balance all together, just lean in the proper direction and you're good. And hold down the B button, of course. Like SA1, there are upgrades. However, there's no hub world this time around, so you just find them throughout the stages. Some make a return, like the Lightspeed Dash, which is so much better here. No need to charge it, just press the button in front of trail rings, and you're good as gold. The consequences to having such tighter gameplay is that the level design has gotten more linear. Nothing wrong with linearity, of course, but what I liked about SA1's stages were how open they were. They still were linear goals, but there were way more nooks and crannies that are filled with capsules and if possible different routes you can take. That's not entirely gone for SA2, but the game really encourages you to rush through stages as fast as you can. Some of the stages tend to open up later on, like Sonic and Shadow's final stages, with the many different rails you can take, which I do appreciate. Speed, however, is incredibly important here if you want to get the best rank in the game. SA2 was the first 3D game to use the ranking system, which we still used in Sonic games to this day. It's all based on how fast you are, how many rings you have, and to do it all without dying, since if you die, your score resets back to 0. I never really cared about getting the best rank in each stages, but when I do a pretty near as perfect run and get that sweet A rank at the end,
Ultimate victory.
it's hella satisfying. Character battles make a return, and they are slightly better, i.e. they just don't stand in place this time. Granted, a lot of the battles can boil down to a good old game of happy slaps, but fuck the last battle with Sonic and Shadow. I could never figure out how you're supposed to deal damage. The only times I can get a successful hit in was either during a spin dash at the right time, or like speed dashing through them as they were teleporting back in. Never liked these fights. Remember Gamma from the last game? Well, Tails and Eggman's stages are nearly like his from SA1. There's no timer anymore, thankfully, but you have a health meter now. They don't control as gracefully, however. It's a lot more tank-like movement, which makes sense given the mechs they're using. Plus, both characters get hover upgrades, so it makes platforming a bit more easier. Blowing up stuff and chaining those explosions is the key to getting a high score in their stages. When the game doesn't side the dick with you, they really like dropping enemies out of nowhere on you, and it's the pits in these stages. Like, shit like this. How was I supposed to know there was an artificial chaos behind that door? Cheap bastards. Also, fuck these guys, they're easily some of the most annoying enemies in the game, because they keep doing this shit. Shouts to the one that's losing its mind in Crazy Gadget. Look at him go. It's the worst in Tails' stages, because I swear there's always something that drops above you to ruin your day. Eggman gets off easier in this case. He's still got his fair share of issues similar to Tails, but his stages are nowhere near as bad, except during the final fight with Tails. Damn that fox and his missile barrage and laser cannon bullshit. Yeah, fuck you, Tails. Like, characters get these super moves they can use, but you can't. Like, what the fuck, man? This is bullshit. It is also because I forgot to get an upgrade in Eggman's last stage, so I just made the fight harder for myself. Oops. Well, at least Tails got some good tracks in the game. The treasure hunting stages are about the same as they were. Just find the 3 pieces using the radar at the bottom of the screen to locate them, except for some ungodly reason they made it so that you can only take 1 piece at a time. I never got this. It feels like a needless handicap and makes these stages go on for way too long at points. I said the stages in SA1 were short, but this is the wrong way of doing it. It doesn't help that you can still find the other pieces without the radar, but it also means that you can be right next to one and the game just won't tell you. There's a reason why their space stages are some of the worst in the game. Big, wide open, and sometimes vertically tall stages that can take upwards of 10 minutes to beat. No thanks. Especially in Matt's space case, where the hints are reversed. It honestly isn't too bad for the smaller stages. Once you get to the wider ones, it can be a pain. It sucks because control-wise, Knuckles, and that includes Rouge, control significantly better than they were in SA1. Though besides their digging upgrades, I don't remember a whole lot of the other ones. Well, except for the air necklace for Knuckles, as trust me, you're gonna need that for later. If it wasn't for that damn radar handicap, I think their stages would be great. I mean, some of them are still, but I just wish that wasn't there. They do got some nice tracks though. I don't remember much of Rouge's, but it is nice and jazzy at the very least. While Knuckles gets some incorporation of rap thanks to the rapper 100p, or what the game miscredits him as 100p. Ooh. The lyrics themselves can be cheesy, and that's literally because he was given 1 day to write and record them. But paired with Otami's instrumentals, they could be some real good bops. It's just a shame that 100p himself is a pretty shitty dude, so that's always great.
Everybody flow with me. This is your boy Knuckles, and this is Aquatic Mind. Come on, y'all. Let's take a dive in Aquatic Mind. Once was a cold pit, but now it's a water ride. Makes you wanna sit back, enjoy the life, and do things you like doing, get to shine. It's your bees fighting with the foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems.
Alright, let's move on to... Alright, the Chow Garden again. Well, there's more to do here, like the Chow Karate and the daycare, but like SA1, I didn't spend a whole lot of time here for this video. Wait, Tails was out of his mech? Yo, he can fly too. Wait, if Tails can get out of his mech, can... Oh my god. Oh man, look at him go! Okay, this may be the best part of the game now. Okay, so I held out on it for a bit, but let's wrap it up with the final story. After inserting the last Chaos Emerald, the Ark activates its final protocol, which is to send the Ark on a direct course to Earth, and with the power of the Chaos Emeralds, to blow up the entire planet. It's all a part of Gerald's plan to seek revenge against humanity for killing everyone on board 50 years ago. Though I have to ask, when did Gerald program this into the Ark? The only possible way he had enough time to program this in was right before he was imprisoned by Gunn, after learning of Maria's death, or before the raid. I don't know, I'm probably overthinking this again. Also, we get to see Gerald about to be mowed down by a firing squad, and if you think I'm joking...
Is there anything else you want to say? No. Ready!
What's going on here?
Never would I thought the concept of firing squad would be in a Sonic game. The only shot both groups have to stop the Ark is to make it to its core, and with the power of the Master Emerald, to halt the energy that the Chaos Emeralds are producing. Also, side note, why is the Master Emerald so tiny now? They only got one shot to prevent total annihilation, and this is the start of the final stage of the game, Cannon's Core. One massive relay race to the core, between almost all the characters in the game. By the way, remember what I said about Knuckles' air necklace? Well, you better have it here, because his segment is all underwater, and it looks like hell to go through if you don't have it. Oh, hi, Vic. This was the part of the game I remember getting stuck at the most as a kid. This and a upcoming fight. While everyone's doing their thing, Amy notices Shadow looking out towards the planet. She tries to convince Shadow to help the others save the planet and give humanity a chance. And thanks to Amy, Shadow remembers what Maria's final wish really was: to give humanity a chance to live, to be happy, and to bring good to the world. And what has to be the biggest oops of the century? Sonic and Knuckles make it to the core, but before they can make it to the altar, a giant lizard spawns out of nowhere. This is the Bio-Lizard, the prototype of the ultimate life form. You can also see this earlier in the Dark Side story. Shadow decides to step in and distract the lizard while the two make it to the altar. Now this fight was the bane of my 10-year-old's existence. I spent so long trying to beat this damn lizard, but I never could for the longest time. I eventually would, thankfully, and after replaying it now, it's not too bad. It is the hardest fight in the game, no doubt. Probably one of the best in the game too. Now the issues really stem from the latter half of the fight, where it throws these little orbs at you, where you have to homing attack them, which I swear can be pretty jank at points. And this last part where you're floating around in midair where you can't afford to get hit at all, Otherwise, you die and it's a reset. Thankfully, it only took my second attempt to get through this thing, but my god, never forget. Well, at least it's got a good track. Knuckles stops the Chaos Emeralds, but now there's a different problem. The Bio-Lizard uses Chaos Control to attach itself to the station, maintaining its course for Earth. But with the power of the Chaos Emeralds, Sonic and Shadow go super, and let me just say this now, Crush 40, only 2 games into their career for that series, has managed to create what is easily one of the best tracks they've made for the whole franchise. It's quite literally fucking peak. Also, I swear to God, this track better be in Sonic 3. It makes up for what is, honest to God, a jank-ass final boss. You have to hit these pink blemishes on the lizard. And I swear the hit detection does not want to work sometimes. Like, what is this bullshit? Sonic and Shadow use Chaos Control on the station to place it back to where it once was. The day is saved, however because of that, and using up his super form, Shadow plummets to Earth, but he still manages to fulfill Maria's wish. And with that, the group leave the Ark. Sonic bids farewell to Shadow one last time, ending Sonic Adventure 2's story. Sure, nowadays we know Shadow isn't dead. He literally appears in the next game afterwards alive and well. Well, for the most part anyways. But it doesn't take away from how touching of an ending this is. Yeah, I'm not ashamed to admit, I tend to get teary-eyed during this moment. But man, I don't care. It's just a great moment to end what is honestly a pretty good story for the series. I much prefer this over SA1's, but not to say this is perfect. No, it can sometimes feel contrived given the examples I brought up, and even kind of dumb at points. However, I can still look past these things and have a good time. It's still worth noting, of course. It's also an oddly fitting ending too. You can say this game was Sonic Team saying sayonara to Sega's legacy. Their swan song, you can say. Just like SA1, SA2 is flawed in many different areas, but if I were to choose between the two, I say SA2 is my favorite. I remember preferring SA1 when I was younger, but now I'm the opposite. I kinda like SA2 more. However, I still think both games are worth your time. Sure, one is way more jankier than the others, and again, both games are not perfect, but I still say if you never played a Sonic game, I think it's worth playing at least these two for the first time. You should definitely play Sonic Adventure 2. Well, I've been Sonicman, and I thank you for watching. Have a good day, or night, or whatever, and take care.